Hi everyone, it's Jama Malmi. Welcome back to another scrapbook process video. Today I'm working with Cricut cuts, but this began as a sketch. This was from day 23 of Christy's Beautiful Life of Sketches created by JQ Crafty. So I took this and then I created my own in Cricut Design Space. I just played around with a bunch of different cuts that I had and followed along with the sketch, so you can see there are a lot of similarities, but I did go in a slightly different direction. So I'm documenting a trip to Shaver Lake. This is actually from before I even had kids. I haven't scrapbooked before kids in a long time. And these photos are actually even a little grainy because this was before iPhones, before I had a nice camera. But it's just some nice snow pictures at the lake. And this is my dog who's now gone, but it's fun to look back at pictures of him. But anyways, I designed this layout with these photos in mind. So my 5x7 is going to go over here, and then I'm going to trim these 4x6s down to 4x4 to fit over here. And then I brought in this Candid Moments collection because it's got these wood grain chipboard pieces, and I thought that that might go with the wood grain in these sliced logs. So for these Cricut pieces, first of all, these are die cuts, and these are part of the kit that I'm killing, the Wonderland collection. And I don't have a whole lot of paper left, but truth be told, I'm a little tired of the color palette of the pinks and purples in that pack, so I just wanted to bring in some of the grays in the snowflakes and work with these other things. I brought in a little bit of patterned paper for these trees. I thought that might be fun, and I'm going to add a little bit of depth and dimension with some inking. And then I used this wood grain pattern from the wood grain paper pack to cut these logs. I also brought in this paper, which is from the Fresh Air collection, I believe, but it's not bright white, and I'm not sure how it's going to look. I was thinking maybe the background, so we'll see about that. I've already gone ahead and inked this to add a little bit of depth and dimension and to darken that. This is Espresso cardstock, and then I thought it looked good on top of the wood grain paper. So that's what I like to do when I do these log slices. I've already inked around the edges just of the gray on these mountains. I didn't do anything on the white to add a little depth and dimension. But this is what I've got, and so let's just go ahead and get started. So I did try to put that paper in the background, and it was too busy, in addition to I didn't like that it wasn't bright white. So I'm going to switch that out with the white, and I do like that much better. There's already so much going on with all of the Cricut cuts, and the cuts are busy and there's lots of photos, so I think this looks better. But to jazz it up a little bit, I'm going to add some charcoal shimmer brush. I love my splatter, and bonus if it's shimmer. So the charcoal matches the gray in my cuts. I squeezed a little bit onto that block that you can't really see, and then I'm using the brush to tap in a few little areas. A lot of the background's going to be covered up, so I didn't bother splattering everywhere, but I did just a little bit in some spots that will be showing. And while that dries, I'm going to work on some inking. So I've got the New England Ivy. This is the old stamp pad, and I'm going to ink I'm going to ink all of the trees with a sponge dauber. I'm speeding this up a little bit, and I'm just going to show you one tree, but I like to just kind of go around. It doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to get into all the nooks and crannies, but it just adds a little bit of depth and dimension. And once I'm done here, I'm going to show you the difference. It's subtle, but you can definitely tell that there's more depth in the tree that I inked. So I'm going to go ahead and do that to this background cluster as well. And by the way, this is New England Ivy. I'm using the light side though. Close to My Heart's cardstock is two-sided. One side has a lighter hue of the color. So I'm going to ink around the edges in the same New England Ivy ink, and then these will be ready to adhere together. I'm going to do that to all of the trees, and you can see the difference there. It's just a really nice addition. You definitely don't have to do this though, but I like to do it. It does take a little bit of extra time, but I think it's worth it. So this is how I'm doing that stump. It is so fragile with those small little pieces. You don't want to cut this piece too small, otherwise sometimes the Cricut has a bit of a hard time. I have done it a little smaller than this, but you just want to be careful and use the intricate cut setting. But I wanted these to be a little bit darker in addition to having that depth and dimension from the inking. So I'm just like rubbing with the shape right over, and you can see that difference there. So I did that to all of the stumps. I didn't bother with the background because you can't see the edges. And then I'm going to start gluing all of my pieces together. So just put a little bit of liquid glue and carefully start with the tip of the tree and glue that down. The liquid glue is forgiving and lets you kind of slide it into place if you don't get it perfect the first time. This stump has a little notch on one side, and so that is helpful when you're lining things up. I didn't put glue on the back of every one of those little tiny dainty pieces. I did it around the edge and then those slices that kind of go, around out from the inside to the outside. And that seemed to be plenty. And then I'm going to very carefully line up those little notches in the side. And then I'm going to do the same thing to all of those slices. A little bit of glue oozed out, but don't worry, if you're using a clear glue, it's not a problem. I really, really like using this Barely Art glue. It's a little on the pricier side, but I think it's well worth it. It's lasted me a really long time. I have the 4-ounce bottle, and it comes out super fine. It dries clear, and it doesn't dry like tacky to the touch like some glues do. So I'm really happy with it, and I'll link that down below if you're interested. It comes from Amazon, or at least I get it from Amazon. And I will also link all of the rest of the supplies that I'm using. I used cuts from several different Close to My Heart Cricut collections. There's Timber, Aurora, the mountains are Artistry, I believe, so I will link the item numbers down below. You will need the Close to My Heart collection to be able to cut them, and that's available through my Cricut affiliate link, which will also be linked below. They're really, really great collections. Some of them are only $10, and then you own the images. If you have access, you may be able to still access them, but I can't guarantee that. Sometimes that doesn't work. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead and start assembling my page. I decided to add the background border to my background, and so I'm gutting out this charcoal cardstock, and I left about 1 inch, and then about 1/4 of an inch is going to be showing. I cut off 1/2 inch from 2 sides of that white paper, which leaves 1/4 of an inch all the way around, and I'm going to use my Versamat, which is super helpful to help me line that up and glue it down. Now this is hyperspeed because I'm just going to be assembling everything, and I wanted to leave it in because I thought it might be helpful for you to see how I assemble everything and layer everything up. I'm going to use some of my tape runner, sometimes liquid glue. It's kind of just preference and depending on what the piece is and what it's going on top of. I did plenty of glue because there are so many layers, and like that slice has so many fine details in it that I made sure I had plenty of glue on anything going on top of that. I used liquid glue on the title because I just thought that was easier. And that was cut using just a font that I had on my computer, so it's not anything special. I just used the font, and then I used the Cricut offset feature, which is new and super handy to create that outline around it. So now I'm going to move on over to the other page and assemble pretty much the same way. I'm putting the wood slices on the base, and then I will layer the mountains on top of that, and then the photos and the supporting embellishments. So those wood slices do create a visual triangle. Just want to point that out. And then here goes this mountain. I really like this mountain. There are a couple other mountains I have. I think there's even one in either the Timber or I think it's the Aurora collection, which I used part of, but I really like this one. which is from Artistry, I believe. So we're going to add these trees, and I didn't put any tape on the very top, you'll notice, and that's because I wanted to be able to slide those photos in and out. I had decided to put the photo of my husband and I up top and my dog below so that the trees had more room over the photo of the dog, but I forgot I've got this Explore badge, and that didn't really work very well going into my husband's head, so I luckily didn't use liquid glue and I could just switch those up here. So I'm going to do that, and this looks cute right there next to Oslo. So now we're really close to done. I am just going to trim off these items that are hanging off the edge. I like the way that that looks, just adds a little bit of extra character to the page. And then we're going to pull in these snowflakes. And these snowflakes are the only thing I'm using from the Wonderland kit that I'm killing. This Wonderland scrapbooking kit has been super fun to work with, but like I mentioned, I'm just a little bit tired of that pink and purpley and sage green colors, and I wanted to do a snow layout, but I wanted to do more vivid colors or more, you know, wood grains and pine tree colors than that kit. So I'm just using all of the gray and white snowflakes that are left, scattering those around where I think they look good. And that one on the right under lake was kind of giving me trouble because it was hard to see, and I didn't want to put any ink behind it. Sometimes I sponge a little ink behind some embellishments to make them pop more, but I didn't want to do that for this one, so you'll see how I fix that in just a minute. So I've got those pretty close to where I want, just this one little one. Yep, I like it right there. I think I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to bring in these wood pieces. And so there were several hearts in this wood grain chipboard collection, which is from Candid Moments, and I believe it's still available, so I'll link that below. Again, as well as anything else I'm using that's still available. And then I scattered a bunch of those hearts around, and then I realized, oh, I can put the heart underneath this snowflake, which of course I glued down with liquid glue, so I had to peel that up very carefully off camera and put the little heart behind it, and I think that that looks good, and that helps it to pop off the page a little bit better. So I'll get everything then glued down, and here is a look at my sketch and at my final page. I added some strip journaling in that little empty spot on the bottom of the mountain, and there we have it, a cute Cricut layout that started from a sketch, and we used a lot of fun products. So I hope that you learned something today and that you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet. I post videos every Tuesday and Thursday, and we're almost done killing this kit. We'll have maybe 1 or 2 more videos. And I thank you so much for joining me today. Have a wonderful day.